In this video, I'm going to guide you through a sacred sound meditation from the Tantras that, first of all, is my absolute favorite practice, and second, has the power to unlock your energy and transform your life. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I am super excited to be teaching this because this is my absolute favorite technique to both practice and teach. It has had extremely noticeable and powerful effects in my own experience, in my own body, and in the field of my own psycho-spiritual energy, so to speak. The technique is known as Ucchāra. Ucchāra, which refers to the upward rising outward breath, with or without sound, with or without mantra, the upward rising breath energy, which rises from its most gross level, its grossest form at the root of the body. Gradually it becomes subtler and subtler until it's at its most subtle state in the space above the crown. The mantra that we will be working with in this practice is Shiva's Bīja mantra. HAUM. HAUM. If you look closely at it, HAUM, it contains within it the mantra OM. As we practice this, we will imagine or experience, visualize, or sense that this potent life energy will be rising up through the center of the body, beginning from initially from the root, and as the exhale, as the out-breath begins from the lower abdominal region, halfway between the navel and pubic bone, roughly, which in Tantra is known as Khanda, the Khanda, one of the other chakras, Khanda. So the exhale begins from there, and as it rises upward, the will be felt in the abdominal region, and as the rises, it becomes the U at the heart and into the throat area. And then it culminates in the at the palate, vibrating at the palate. Not the lips together vibrating. You will not be pressing your lips together and mmming like, that's so delicious. It's not like that. It becomes this nasally NG sound. And you feel that tongue pressing into the palate gently and vibrating there, vibrating at the palate. As that dissolves, dissolves, it continues to rise up, either straight up through the crown into the space above the crown, or as it rises, it might kind of travel up through the eyebrow center and up to the hairline, and then up to the crown, and then up into the space above the crown. But with each exhalation, there's this rising. HAUM. HAUM. With each one. With the inhalation, you will have to imagine or sense that energy, that potent energy, in the sonic form of HAUM, that it coils back up down at the root of the body. And then just as that exhale is going to begin to flow again, it uncoils and it starts to rise up as that exhale begins at the lower abdomen and rises up as you work through each of those vowels until you find yourself vibrating at the palate. The vibration at the palate, the purpose of that in yoga is to dissolve a psychic knot, perhaps for lack of a better word, a psychic knot that exists right before that chakra in the center of the brain, that eyebrow-centered chakra. And that psychic knot, when knotted, prevents or disrupts the upward flow of this life energy from reaching the higher centers, again, the center in the brain, or moving up into the space above the crown. This practice is very effective at unlocking or unleashing the life energy, the primal life energy that some may call Kundalini Shakti. And it has the power to unlock the potency contained within that seed mantra. When that's unlocked, the power of that as it vibrates through our being, as it lifts us up to resonate as that, the effects of that are experienced within our lives. It is said that the seed mantra we are working with, HAUM, chanting it regularly, could dispel fear and insecurity, could leave us feeling grounded, solid, more secure, more confident. Perhaps that is because that in the chanting of it, in the regular repetition of this mantra, in lifting ourselves to resonate as this vibration regularly, often, we come closer and closer and closer to the recognition of ourselves as that. And in that recognition alone, fear is dispelled, insecurity is dispelled, worry is dispelled, and we become more confident, more solid, more secure. So that's the first part of this, Ucchāra with HAUM, the rising upward. Each breath coils back down to the root, and as each exhale begins, absolute focus on the power of that mantra rising upward, that exhale and mantra rising all the way upward, vibrating at the palate as it passes through each of the centers, vibrating at the palate, and then continuing as it dissolves into the space above the crown. So that's the second part of this. This technique is referenced in another tantric scripture, the Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra, referenced as a practice, as a doorway to the revelation of our essence, nature, as this Shiva consciousness, as this pure awareness. And so in this manual, for lack of a better word, again, in this manual, it describes this practice of Ucchāra, only it adds something to it. It tells you to do something at the very end of the utterance of that mantra. What it tells you to do is to contemplate on or meditate on or become very aware of the moment in which the vibration of that mantra dissolves or merges back into the void from where it came from. That you're to meditate on the very moment that that mantra dissolves. So you take this slow, deep inhale as you do the practice. You take this inhale and that energy coils all the way down to the root. And as you exhale, it starts to flow up and you begin that mantra, and then it rises and it dissolves into the space above the crown. And you just remain there for a few moments. Completely curious, interested. Allow yourself to become, for those few moments, completely lost to that void, that space, from where all vibrations arise from and eventually dissolve back into. So that's the second part of this, the meditation or the yukti from the Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra. Cool? Got it? And then repeat the practice. You can do this with many different seed mantras, Bīja mantras. This isn't the only one. You can refer to a recording I have using HREEM, HREEM. You can refer to and follow along with the recording I've done of HREEM. If you want to practice with that, which is like the goddess's HAUM. Goddess's HAUM, so beautiful, so powerful. Okay, so find or adjust your position if needed so that you're comfortable. So you're upright, so your spine can be nice and long, especially now that we are working along this central channel or central column of energy that flows up through the center of the body and just in front of the spine. It's very important that we keep the body, the spine upright. If you need to sit on bolsters, cushions, chairs, whatever. I'm going to do this with the harmonium here. You don't need to do it with a harmonium. I'm just using this to support us. It absolutely can be done without a harmonium. Get yourself comfortable. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in and a big sigh out. See if we can relax the throat, the abdominal area. Deep, full breath in and take a big sigh. You can even add that primal sound into it. Ah. Ah. Can do one of those. We're going to do this about 15 minutes of straight Ucchāra chanting. And then afterwards we will be still and sort of abide within the residual sensations and vibrations of the practice. Relax as best as you're able to. So I'm going to begin doing this. You don't have to try to match me in my breath or how long I chant each mantra. You should find a comfortable capacity for yourself. So there's no strain. There should be no struggle. Let that inhale come all the way down, coil right up at the root of the body. And catch the very moment it dissolves, that vibration back into that void as it rises up into the space above the crown. Remember, you are to focus on the rising sense of that mantric power, vibration rising up through the body. That vibrating sound, it finds its way slowly up into the space above the crown as it dissolves, as it merges to that void. Catch that moment. Be so there. Ah. you to be so aware of the very moment, the empty fullness of that space or that void at the very end of the mantra, or also even at the very beginning, right before it manifests. So that you may perhaps recognize yourself as that everythingness. Just want you to become still, you to forget about the mantra, or at least the external vocal repetition of it. Just become still. Just be and do nothing. Namo, Namo. I bow to this one all-pervading consciousness. I bow to this consciousness which sits at the seat of the heart. I bow. Namo, Namo. Just be aware of everything there is for you to be aware of in this moment. Every sensation, every feeling, every thought or lack of thought. Every sound, smell, and taste. Just be aware of you existing right here, right now. Notice what that feels like. Be aware of that experience. Be aware of the feeling of your body and the feeling of the breath passing into and out of your body. Be aware of the earth holding your body, the seat beneath you, and the felt sense of your body being held by the earth. The felt sense of it. It might feel very solid, or it might feel quite spacious, luminous even. It might feel this or that. Doesn't matter. The point is, be aware of what it is that you feel as sensations, as varying intensities of sensations. You can feel both solid. You can feel the solidness of your body, of your bones, of your flesh and organs. And yet at the same time, you may feel that your body is luminous, spacious, light. Or anything in between. Continue to practice this. If you like this practice, if you could get connected to this in some way, practice this with this seed mantra every day, or as much as you can, at least for, let's say, an entire moon cycle before trying another mantra. Practice this mantra until you become saturated in its vibrations.